Shonen. I love it, you love it, and man, does everyone love it. I mean, think about one anime fan that doesn't love Shonen. We're gonna be honest here, it's gonna be hard. So, I wanted to talk about what Shonen is and, well, what we can talk about today. But, what about Shonen makes it good? Is it even good? I mean, think about it. Shonen sucks, but and maybe that's not so much as a bad thing. So today, we're going to be talking about why Shonen is bad and why that's a good thing. First, let's set up definitions. What's Shonen? Well, Shonen could be anything that just feels Shonen. We have your typical series, Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Those are easy. We know those are Shonen. But, let's define it a bit larger than that. You can have things that are in Shonen Jump. I define that as Shonen because Shonen Jump kind of defined what Shonen is. So if it's in Shonen Jump, it's a Shonen. However, it has to feel like a Shonen. Usually this means like a coming of age story of kids and a male protagonist. Usually doesn't have to be. Probably better if it's not, honestly. But we can also talk about things like stories that have to do with power systems being introduced. It doesn't have to be a struggle between the main character and the antagonist of the story. But that's not all. Many shonens like to have character struggles shown through different ways, i.e. battles of either mind or power levels, or even just talking things out. But struggles is one of the main concepts of shonen that I think that really ties it together. How the struggle of the series is usually going to be the definition of the series. How many of the struggles will be the main focal point of the series. This also means that shonen is an easy to understand genre. This makes it so that you're not going to have a lot of misinterpretations of what your author is trying to get across to the audience, but it does allow your story cannot be as complex as you want it many times, and instead will have a negative effect on the series itself. However, since it's easy to understand, you can get these shorthands across super simply to the audience. Now, what I mean by shorthands, it can easily be interpreted as, think of how you understand memes. When you see a meme image and you can recognize what that meme image is, like Forever Alone. When you look at a Rage comic, you can see that Forever Alone is in it. You know what the Rage comic is about easily, because Forever Alone is a easy to understand image, and it's passed along on what it actually means. So you can have these easy shorthands in your story. So this also happened in Renaissance paintings. Many times, since audiences of Renaissance paintings were of the lower class, they had shorthands to understand what the painting was about. For instance, oranges were a symbol of fertility in the Renaissance era. So if you had oranges in a painting, it probably meant the painting was about fertility in some capacity. So you would have marriage scenes or portraits that have oranges in it. Now it translates to shonen by taking, let's say, a beam struggle. A beam struggle is an easy to understand concept that shows two opposing forces having to battle it out, and whoever wins is easily determined by the beam moving back and forth. So you can, instead of having a complex battle between the two where you have subtle nuance, you just get a clear, easy to understand who's winning the fight and who wins it at the end. It's just that simple. Just because it's easy to understand doesn't make it bad. In fact, I think that makes it good, because this allows people to understand the story in a much simpler way, and you don't have to go into deep just dives into the story. This means that also you can push this genre to its limits quite easily. When something is simple, you can really understand the tools that you're given, and you can push it to become something more. And this allows for meta narratives and for things to just get meta super easily. Like, think about many of the best shonens are deconstructions of the shonen genre. You have Evangelion, which destroys, not really destroys, that's a bit of a overstatement. But how about more of critiques how shonen and shonen audiences have in relation with their media? And so you can have a great series be able to tell a story within its own genre, critiquing the genre itself. And since it's so easy to do, many authors are able to do whatever they want with it. the more authors, the merrier, because you can have such variance in your stories that you're gonna have maybe some stinky ones, but you're gonna have some really great ones because there's just so many people trying to make a shonen that is what they want to make, and so you can have just great series come from nothing because you have so many people working on it. You're bound to get really great stuff out of it. Let's take, for instance, a series that we can deconstruct and understand what I'm trying to say easier. So let's take a simple one, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. The series itself isn't that complicated. In fact, it's pretty easy to understand. It's a bunch of people just fighting and then having a struggle of ideas at the end of what they mean. Yet there's so many themes within this story that allowed it to make such a great story. Like, for instance, in part 4, Diamonds Unbreakable, you have the theme of darkness and light, because you're having such a dark force, Yoshikage Kira, battle against such a character of light, Josuke Higashikata, and you can make such easy determinations of what you're trying to understand from the story. From a serial killer to a Yankee, you have such easy definitions of your characters that you're able to understand what the author is trying to say, and what he wants to say is simple. A life of hardship may be just a struggle to get through, but it's worth it in the end. And you can have many friends and family who care about you, who will help you get along with your life and understand you as a person to hopefully help you in your future and become what you want to do. Now, what I've said here may not seem that bad, but I mean, think about it. You have simple stories who usually have to follow along a story structure, but you have a lot of variance in how that story structure is interpreted. And, you know, that's just going to give you maybe a lot of stinkers. Like, let's be real, a lot of stinkers. But it's going to give you some of those golden series that I think define what makes, you know, anime and manga good, is that ability to have these stories that can take deconstructions of itself, or even push the limits of what a shonen is to become the greatest thing it can become. And usually that's just what it is, you know. Mindless fun with just a story of struggle given to the audience.